By the time my mother realized what she had done, the bank had already frozen everything. Not just the $47,000 she wired to her boyfriend's shell company. Not just the joint account she'd been draining for 18 months while telling me it was for emergencies. Not just the credit cards she'd maxed out in my name, the loans she'd co-signed with forged signatures, the retirement fund she'd cashed out because family shares everything. Everything. The house, the car, the investment portfolio I'd built from nothing while working 60-hour weeks at a job she still described as counting other people's money. The small apartment I'd finally been able to afford in a neighborhood where I didn't need to check my locks twice. All of it, frozen, flagged, and flagged again by 9:15 on a Tuesday morning she thought would be like any other. My name is Sloan Mercer. I'm 31 years old. Naya Jody got coxumated. And I am the person who froze my own mother's life. Not because I wanted to, because she gave me no choice. Because family shares everything doesn't mean what she thinks it means. Because after 31 years of sharing, my room, my clothes, my college fund, my first paycheck, my credit score, my peace of mind, I finally understood that sharing only flows one direction in our family. From me to her, from daughter to mother, nay, and all, from the one who earns to the one who takes. And on March 14th, I stopped sharing. Visual, close-up of hands, fingers hovering over a keyboard, a badge on the desk, Fraud Investigation Unit. The Mercer family has never been wealthy, but we have always been good at pretending. My mother, Diane, at 54, is the architect of that pretense. She dresses in Talbots and Ann Taylor, outlets only, but you'd never know from the way she carries herself. The way she inspects restaurant wine, lists like she knows the difference between a Pinot and a Cabernet. The way she mentions our portfolio at dinner parties, as if she has ever invested $1 she didn't first take from someone else. She has never worked a job longer than 8 months. She has never paid a bill on time without my father's money, then my money, then money she borrowed from relatives she never repaid. She has a talent for finding men who will support her. My father for 12 years, then a series of boyfriends with investment opportunities and temporary cash flow problems, and a greater talent for leaving them before they realize she's the problem. My father left when I was 9. I don't remember him well. The smell of pipe tobacco, the sound of him humming while washing dishes, the way his shoulders dropped the year before he disappeared. What I remember is my mother, the night he left, sitting me at the kitchen table and saying, "It's just us now, Sloan. Family shares everything. We have to stick together." I was 9. I didn't know that sticking together meant I would stick, and she would take, and together only meant me holding the bag while she emptied it. She used that phrase my entire life. When she took my babysitting money to pay the electric bill and bought herself a new coat instead. When she borrowed my college graduation gift from my grandmother, $5,000 in savings bonds, and I found the receipt for her boyfriend's car stereo in her drawer. When she convinced me to add her to my bank account at 22, because family shares everything, and what if there's an emergency? The emergency, I learned, was always her. Visual, office building at night, glass windows, city lights reflected. I am not a bank teller. I have never been a bank teller. I am a senior fraud investigator for First Continental Bank's commercial division, specializing in wire transfer anomalies and account takeover detection. I have a certification in forensic accounting, I have testified in 3 federal cases. I have helped recover $8 million in stolen funds for clients who will never know my name. My mother thinks I count other people's money. She has told her friends this. She has told her boyfriends this. She has used it as an explanation for why I can afford to help her, why I should help her, why helping her is practically my job description. Sloan works at a bank, she says, with a little laugh. She's good with numbers. She knows how these things work. Oh, I need me. I do know how these things work. That's the problem. That's the weapon. That's the reason she never saw me coming. Visual, computer screen showing transaction logs, red flags, amounts highlighted. For 18 months, I watched her. Not because I wanted to, because I couldn't stop seeing it. Because when you spend your days tracing fraud patterns, you recognize them in your sleep. The small withdrawals that don't match spending habits. The transfers to accounts with no history. The timing, always just after my paycheck deposits, always just before the emergencies she invented. The boyfriend this time was named Victor. Victor had a real estate development company that existed only on paper. Victor had a Rolex he couldn't afford, and a Mercedes leased in someone else's name. Victor had convinced my mother to invest in his latest project, a condominium complex in Florida that, according to public records, was a vacant lot owned by a shell corporation registered in Delaware. I ran Victor through our internal databases in 10 minutes. Flagged in 2 states for wire fraud. No. Previous convictions for check kiting. A restraining order from a former business partner in Arizona. My mother didn't know any of this, or she didn't want to know. Or she knew and didn't care, because Victor told her she was beautiful and special and worth investing in. And my mother has always been hungry for someone to tell her she's worth something without asking what it costs. The $47,000 wasn't the total. It was just the latest transfer. The one that crossed the line from concerning to actionable. The one that happened on March 12th at 2:47 a.m. from our joint account, an account I'd opened at 22 with $300, and she'd never contributed a penny to Victor's Shell Company, Meridian Property Holdings, LC. I was awake when it happened. I was awake because I was working late, reviewing a case file, when the alert popped up on my personal account monitoring app. I had set that alert 6 months earlier, after the 3rd unexpected withdrawal. I told myself it was just caution, just awareness, just professional habit. I was lying. I knew what she was. I knew what I would have to do. I just wasn't ready to admit I was capable of doing it. Visual, phone screen, 2:47 a.m., transfer alert $47,000. I stared at that alert for 11 minutes. I know because I timed it. 11 minutes of watching $47,000. Money I'd saved from overtime, from bonuses, from saying no to vacations and new clothes, and anything that wasn't strictly necessary, disappear into a black hole named Victor. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I didn't confront. I did what I was trained to do. I documented. I screenshotted. I pulled the wire authorization, signed with my name, forged, the signature shaky, obviously traced from the card she kept in her purse for emergencies. I pulled 6 months of statements. I compiled the pattern. The small withdrawals. The larger ones. The transfers to Victor's previous shell companies. The ones before Meridian. The ones I'd ignored because they were only 5,000. Only 12,000. Only money I could afford to lose if it meant keeping the peace. I had been keeping the peace since I was 9. I was done keeping peace with thieves. Visual. Office at dawn. Coffee cold. Documents spread across desk. By 6:00 a.m. I had a file. By 7:00 I had called our legal department. By 8:00 I had spoken with my supervisor, a woman named Patricia Okonkwo, who had built her career on catching people exactly like Victor, and who looked at my documentation with the kind of professional respect that made me want to cry and scream at the same time. "You're sure about this?" she asked. "Now are you sure she's guilty?" She knew. And now they both. We both knew. She was asking, "Are you sure you want to do this to your own mother?" I was sure. I had been sure since I was 12, and she sold my bicycle to pay for her boyfriend's car repair. Since I was 16, and she borrowed my college savings for a business opportunity that turned out to be a pyramid scheme. Since I was 24, and she forged my signature on a credit card application and maxed it out before I knew it existed. Since every family shares everything that meant Sloan shares, Diane takes. But I didn't say any of that. I said, "I'm sure. Freeze everything." Visual. Bank vault. Heavy door closing. Lock turning. The freeze was comprehensive. Not just the joint account. Every account with her name. Nadia Soul. Yodli Q. Every card. Every line of credit. The mortgage on her house, which I had been paying, though she told everyone it was her investment property, flagged for review. The car lease in my name that she drove. The phone plan. I don't know. The insurance policies she'd taken out with me as beneficiary without my knowledge, the ones with premiums drawn from an account I didn't know existed. I didn't just freeze her out of my money. I froze her out of my life. Every connection, every shared password, every just in case she'd set up over 31 years of taking. I changed my locks. I changed my number. I changed my email. I filed the fraud report with the same detachment I used for any other case, the same clinical precision, the same refusal to let emotion compromise the documentation. And then I waited. See. Visual. Phone on table. Silent. Time passing. She called at 9:15 a.m. I was in a meeting. I let it go to voicemail. She called again at 9:22. Again at 9:31. By 10:00, she had left 14 messages. I listened to none of them. I didn't need to. I knew what they said. The progression from confusion to panic to anger to the thing she did best. Accusation disguised as victimhood. "Sloan, there's been some mistake at the bank. I need you to call them. They won't listen to me. You work there. You know how to fix this. Family shares everything. Sloan, you know that. You know I'd never do anything to hurt you. Call me back. Call me back. Call me back." I didn't call back. I forwarded the voicemails to Patricia. Evidence. Documentation. Nandi. Pattern. Dot. Victor called at 11:30. I didn't answer. He left one message. "Your mother is very upset. You need to fix this. Now." I saved it. I forwarded it. I added it to the file. By 2:00 p.m., my mother had gone to the branch. She demanded to speak to a manager. She used my name. My daughter works here, she'll vouch for me. And was politely informed that my name was the reason she was being escorted out. She called again from the parking lot. Oh, I was eating lunch at my desk. A sandwich I didn't taste. Water I didn't drink. Just sitting, staring at my phone, watching her name appear and disappear, like a heartbeat that was finally slowing down. Visual. Conference room. Legal documents. Patricia Okonkwo speaking. The meeting was at 4:00. Legal, compliance, Patricia, and me. They asked if I wanted to press charges. Criminal charges. Wire fraud. Identity theft. Forgery. The kind of charges that carry sentences measured in years, not months. The kind that would put my mother in a cell next to Victor, who had already been picked up in Florida on an outstanding warrant. I said no. Not because I forgave her, not because I felt guilty, because prison would cost me more than it cost her, because she would become the victim in the story she told. Because my daughter put me in jail plays better than I stole from my daughter and got caught. Because I didn't want to give her that narrative, that power. That final theft of my story, my pain, my 31 years of being the good daughter who shared everything. I said, civil recovery only, full restitution, permanent account closure, no contact order. Patricia looked at me for a long moment. Aye. Then she nodded. That's very controlled, Sloan, very precise. I learned from the best, I said, and I wasn't talking about her. Visual. Empty apartment. Boxes, new furniture still wrapped. I moved on March 20th, 6 days after the freeze. A new apartment in a new neighborhood, one she'd never visited, never known about, never had a key to. It was small. 1 bedroom, a view of an alley, a kitchen that smelled like the previous tenant's cooking. It was the most expensive piece I had ever bought. The best investment I had ever made. The bank recovered most of the money. No. Victor's accounts were seized. My mother's investment in Meridian Property Holdings was ruled fraudulent. The funds returned minus legal fees. I ended up losing about $8,000. The cost of learning that some people will never stop taking until you stop giving. $8,000. Less than a semester of the college she promised to pay for. Less than the car she borrowed and totaled. Less than the credit card debt she left in my name at 24. A bargain, really. The cheapest exit fee I could have paid. Nine. Visual. Phone on nightstand. Face down. Clock showing midnight. My phone has been silent for 23 days. Not blocked. Not changed. Just silent. She stopped calling after the lawyer's letter arrived. The one informing her of the no contact order, the civil judgment, the permanent closure of every account we'd ever shared. She stopped calling because she finally understood I wasn't the daughter she thought I was. I wasn't the daughter who would forgive, who would forget, who would fold under pressure and open her wallet and her heart one more time because family shares everything. I am the daughter who learned to count, Who learned to document. Who learned that the only way to stop a thief is to close the door she's been walking through since you were 9 years old. Visual. Morning light through window. Coffee mug. Quiet. June. I wake up now without checking my accounts. I go to sleep without wondering what she's taken. I buy groceries without calculating what she might need. I exist in a space that is entirely mine, entirely paid for, entirely free of the phrase that defined my first 31 years. Family shares everything. I have a new phrase now. I say it to myself in the morning, when the coffee is hot and the apartment is quiet, and the only sound is the city waking up without my mother in it. Sloane keeps everything. And she does. My name is Sloane Mercer. I'm 31 years old. I was the daughter who shared everything. The account holder, the emergency contact, the soft place to land for a woman who never learned to fly. I don't share anymore. My phone hasn't rang in 23 days.